Okay, so today I'm going to try to install some TJ spacers, 0.5 3/4 inch of spacer on my WK2 Laredo Jeep, and I thought I would do a do-it-yourself so you can do it also at your location there instead of paying someone to do it, because it looks like it's pretty simple even though I haven't tried yet. So what you're gonna need first, obviously, is to jack up the truck by the body. I used the floor jack there, and I've put another one on the differential to stabilize the Jeep. And the first thing you would want to do is to use the floor jack and jack up the hub, or whatever, the lower control arm, to compress a bit the spring and give it a bit of loose right here, because the first thing you need is to disconnect the sway bar link here, and if you don't jack up the whole hub, the lower control arm, you're gonna have a hard time to do it. So in my case, I noticed that it's a little bit there's no more, the socket won't fit there. Someone has stripped it. So what I'm going to use, I'm going to use a pair of vice grip. I'm going to hold it on this side here and use an 18mm socket with a air tool, a impact gun, and I'm going to try to remove it. By the way, sorry, I'm not a English guy, I'm a French guy, so if I'm looking for my words, if I don't say the good words, if I make mistake in English, please excuse me. But I'm going to try to make my best to make you guys understand what I'm doing here. So first step, jack it up, jack the wheel or the hub, the low control arm, remove that bolt. We might also have, I don't know, I've never done it on this Jeep yet, but we might have to also disconnect the sway bar link, the sway bar itself, from the chassis there, or from the, what do you call that, the subframe there. So let's try to do this one, and then if it doesn't work, we're gonna have to remove those two here. So I have removed the nut on the sway bar link, but I'm completely unable to remove it from the sway bar because I don't have enough room between the axle and the sway bar. Even if I try to pull it hard, I was not able. So what I'm gonna do, like I said, I'm gonna go and just undo it here. That's the sway bar right there, so I'm gonna have to remove those two, and hopefully that's gonna give me enough room to remove that fucker here. Let's do it. Okay, sway bar link completely removed. Here it is. So next step is to remove the shock absorber from the lower control arm. It's using a 21mm socket here, and on the other side it's using a I think looks like a 22 to 23, whatever. Just remove it, and that's gonna give you more room to lower and uncompress the spring there. Yeah, that's a 24 there. It's a bit loose. I think it's going to be a 23. So just remove that, and that's going to give you more clearance to lower the whole thing down. So we have taken that one loose. So I don't think we're going to need to remove anything else to be able to lower everything down, put the compressors on the spring, and be able to have access in here to put the spacer. But I might, and I say I might have to disconnect the I don't know how to call that, upper control arm, maybe that one, and maybe that one too. I don't know yet. I'm gonna try not to do it, but if I have to, then I'll just do it. So now you're gonna have to lower the floor jack to uncompress this, install your spring compressors. My spring compressors are, whoops, right here. It's just in a Kawasaki bag because I'm a big Kawasaki fan. I own a ZX-10R. So here are, it's a bit hard with one hand. here are the spring compressors we're gonna use to compress that spring and have access to. By the way, I haven't showed it to you yet, but oh, here they are. These are the spacer from a TJ that we're gonna use. They are 0.75 inch or 3/4 of an inch spacer, and from what I've seen, they fit pretty well between the lower control arm and the bushing or whatever you call that. There is where the springs sit there, so it should fit right in. I know some of the people has done it, so I know it fits right there. So let's try to uncompress the spring, lower that thing, and we're gonna install those compressors, and hopefully we're gonna have enough room to fit those in. Here we go. So I ended up removing all the 3 upper control arms. That gave me a lot more room to install and lower the whole thing down and install my spring compressors. And now I'm just I'm about to tighten them. I have started a bit. I have a bit of clearance on the top. I have a bit of clearance in the bottom. I'm gonna keep compressing them until I can install my spacer, and that's gonna be a easy install. Then we all have to put everything back together. So those are all 18 millimeters socket. I use millimeters instead of US 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, or that metric system, I think they call that, or metric is millimeter. The other system there. Just because I'm more familiar with millimeters than I am with the other US. So I'm gonna keep tightening them down, compress them, install the spacer, put it back together, and see what it does. So I got the spring out of the way, and I've seen a guy put the spacer on the bottom, and it fits right. There's a small loose in the hole, but it fits right there. And if you bring it and test the fit at the bottom, it goes just perfectly fine right here. The only thing that I'm concerned with is that those 2 clips here, I don't know if you can see that right there, it holds underneath the right here. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, they will go like so. I'm gonna show you. So they snap and they kind of hold it there. So if I put it here, back here, and put the spacer on top of it, there's not going to be those 2 tabs that will hold it, but I'm not too worried about it. I've tested also, I had the idea of put it on top here instead. Oh, stupid light. Stay there. All right. Yeah, tried it here, but I don't know if you can see, it doesn't. Come on, zoom. Yeah, there's a small gap, probably like 2 millimeter. So it's a bit tight in there. With the weight, it might like push it into place, but I'm just a bit afraid of like tearing it apart when the weight's going to be on it. So I think the best way to mount them is to go it on the lower control arm underneath that, and just forget about those 2 clips. So that's how I'm going to do it now. Just going to put it there, put everything back into place. Like I said, I had to remove the upper control arms. That's the name, I think, in English. The sway bar link right here, and detach the sway bar entirely here. So I had enough access to put the compressors, tighten them down, remove the spring, put the spacer back in, and redo the whole thing back ways. Okay, so I got the spring back in there. I've got the spacer that I've put underneath, I figured it was fitting best on the bottom too. So thanks Jeep Garage for learning me that trick. I don't remember the guy's name, but whatever. So just to install everything else, use the same technique. Floor jack, you lift up the whole hub until you can until you have a good reach to put oops, too much light, until you have enough reach to put the upper control arm back in place and the sway bar. So you're just gonna have to play with the height here, up and down, figure out the best angle. Alright, so I'm gonna have to remove those compressors. The only way I found how to do it is I was able on this side to put the socket, not the socket, but the nut on the top side. But here I couldn't put the other side on this side. I had to use the nut on the bottom side, because that part here would go, and I don't know, the threaded bar or whatever, this part there, it would just tap on the lower control arm, and I didn't have enough room, so I had to do it one way and the other one on the opposite way. It's a pain in the butt because you don't have a lot of room to go and tighten it. I can't fit my impact gun. Impact gun would be really easy, and it would compress right there. So I had to do it manually with a good old how do you call that? Whatever, this tool. Alright, so I'll put everything back into place, and I'm gonna do the other side. Little update on the situation. I decided to mount it on the top there. I figured it would fit better there. I was feeling a bit of a strain or resistance. I would it would probably, with time, it would have worn. It would have, whatever. There would be a lot more wearing on the bottom with the spacer there, and I didn't like the way it was. I could see it was really squeezing it really hard, and I was more afraid to tear it that way. So I ended up putting it here. I'm gonna go ahead and jack everything up and see how it will fit right there. Fully jacked up, and I'm really happy it fits right there. There is no more space between the body and the spacer. Spacer was just squeezed in there, and it fits perfectly. I'm happy with it. So I think if you want to do this mode, you better put it on top than on the bottom. I feel it's going to be, I feel more confident that way. It will last a lot longer than if you put it on the bottom here, pretty sure. So anyway, let's do it on the other side. So we've done both sides, and this is the passenger side that is done, and right there it fits perfect. So I'm done on both sides. It was an easy upgrade, very cheap, gives you a little 3/4 of an inch of lift. So I think it's worth it. I figured that you could do it without spring compressors. On this side, oh, look at that, rotors. I think I have some issues with my calipers. I'll have to look at it. But yeah, I was able to do this side without a spring compressor. If you undo everything, if you remove the sway bar links, if you remove the upper control arms, everything will just drop down, and you have just enough room to fit the spacer and put it back without the spring compressors. So this is the height that it gives it. I think it just perfect. That's just what it need after you do the RRO front leveling. I like it better with a 3/4 of an inch. So if you want to do it cheap, it's a TJ Spacers 3/4. Okay, so we're done on both sides now, and this is the end result. I kind of like it. It just gives it a bit more lift in the back, since I do the front leveling on I did the front leveling on the front. I think now it's just perfect. Sits perfect.